I'm Mona.
I'm Nishi Rose.
And I'm Sophie Hannah, and I want to welcome you to episode 62 of Ethnically Speaking, the show where we discuss everything affecting the UK's highly melanated communities, from current affairs to pop culture and everything in between. Now, we always like to keep it 100, and today we're talking about keeping your money moves to yourself. Everyone loves the concept of the rich auntie, the one who buys the best presents, goes to the best restaurants, and has the latest fashions. But how much is auntie really making? Revealing how much you earn is still taboo in British society, with many people say they feel they are treated differently if they talk about how many zeros they have in their bank account, which has led to the widespread practice of stealth wealth, which is hiding the amount of money you earn from others. I want to know, would you or should you hide how much you earn from family and friends, and how much would you need to earn in order to keep it a secret?
So I'm very open with how much I earn, and partially that is motivated by curiosity, as I feel like if you offer a bit of information, somebody else offers you the same information back. But I often ask my friends how much they earn. And I mean, they do answer also. And I don't know, like for me, for example, working in media, I think it's really useful to know how much people are earning, because then it's much easier to benchmark yourself. And so, for example, you know that when you have sort of decisions to make, so for example, often it'll be like, okay, should I go down this route or this route? And talking to other people who do those things, not that it's all about money, but actually often, it is a significant factor. If you think, okay, if I do this in 2 years, I could be earning X amount. Whereas if I went do this other thing, I'm going to be earning a lot less. My quality of life will be lower. I'm not going to be able to afford as many things. And so I think openness about money is really healthy. But that may also be because I don't have a rich auntie or any auntie. And so I have a much narrower kind of view of this. But yeah, I think I'm all for openness about money. Like, no stealth wealth. I think wealth should be something to be celebrated, not something to be envied.
I do agree with what you're saying, Nishi, to a certain extent, because I think that, especially with women, I think it's very important to have conversations to do with money. For me, I know that I was quite naive and I didn't really understand the system of how much I should be making and quote unquote what my worth was. I remember a few years ago, my friend was saying to me that basically your age should reflect how much you're making. So if you're 23, you should be looking at 23,000 a year. If you're 26,000 a year, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard. And having these kind of bogus claims, if you could call it that, or kind of just guessing, it can be dangerous when you're trying to navigate the world and trying to develop your success and in terms of your career and stuff. And that's why I said for women, I think it's very important, because I believe that in my culture, what I've seen growing up, men have a very open discussion when it comes to business ventures and money and work. And it's a sort of community that kind of pushes up the brotherhood. Now, with women, I would like to see the same thing. And I think we are seeing a lot of that now. You've got people like Patricia, who's a very successful influencer. She's telling women how to make money. She's very transparent with their money. She says how much she's making, how she got there, her portfolios, flipping houses. She even gives tips on women how you can have 2 or 3 jobs, just any way to collect the coins. Aunt Patricia is there to help people out. And I think it's so, so important. But that being said, I don't like people counting my pennies. And you can only do that if you know how much I'm earning. And I think it depends on the people who you're speaking to, because if you can see that trait in someone where they might be a little bit envious, in my culture we have the evil eye, and I'm trying to repel that at all costs. You do have evil eye, you do have people, like I said, who kind of want to count your pennies, or you do have people you have some friends who it's like a frenemy, like they're in a little bit of a competition, like you're doing this so they want to do this. And I think friendly competition is good, but you don't want to be judging people, or do you know what I mean, have really harsh views on someone else because of how much money they're making. And more money, more problems. So I don't know. I feel like I'm really conflicted with this one. Sophie, what are you thinking?
I think it's really tough. I agree with what I think you say in terms of it depends what family and friends want to know. Personally, that's part of me that's probably very British. I don't tell people how much I earn. Not really. But I think that I probably get that from my dad, who is he's very secret. I've never asked him how much he earns. I see him buying stuff. I'm like, oh, is it? Oh, okay. Okay. I was like, that's kind of how it is for me. But so I've just kind of grown up with that, and I probably need to be less secretive about it because, yeah, I'm just never gonna. I'm never really gonna sit down and have that conversation. Someone be like, "Oh, well, how much do you earn?" I'd be like, "Well, why do you want to know? Like, what's that got to do with you?" Like, so but I see how helpful it is when you're going into different arenas for work, and I had to do it recently with a friend when I was looking for a new job, and it was in a different career path than I was used to. So in terms of trying to gauge what I should be earning, it was very different because I had been spending 6 years in the charity sector and now I was going to move into the higher education sector. So I was just like, I don't know how much to kind of barter for or bargain for, and this is how much they're asking, but based on my previous wage, I should really be earning more. And it got very difficult. So I had to start talking to people and saying, well, this is what they're offering. How do I kind of argue for more? So I think in terms of being a woman and in terms of race, it's very important that we start having these conversations in workplaces and with colleagues, because these are the ways that we are being held back, because people or managers or organizations are very much not wanting people to talk about money so that they can get away with paying people less, which is really the crux of it. So yeah, it depends what family and friends. I got a lot more to say, but let me leave someone else to say something.
Do you guys ever find, so sometimes you have that friend, and this has happened to me a couple of times in the last few years, where the friend is always going on about how broke they are. So you will treat them to things whenever you meet. You will always, but I had one friend, in fact, an ex-boyfriend of mine, now gay, but he, whenever we met, he would talk about, I have no money. Can you buy this? Can you buy this? Can you buy this? Can you buy this? And I would always pay for everything.
Hold up.
Ubers, meals.
He actually asked you.
Yes.
Yes, he outright asked me.
Wow, he's brave.
And this is long after we've broken up, right? So at this point, we're very good friends. Or so I believed. So one weekend, the Saturday, we go out to Covent Garden in London. We had like a drink and then went to Shake Shack. So these aren't like very expensive things, right? They're things that if you're going out on a Saturday, you can afford a burger and a milkshake, or you wouldn't be there. And he was like, okay, can you, do you mind paying for me? Like, time's really hard. Of course, I said, of course. What would you like? Have some sides. You know what? I thought, he's obviously going through struggles. The following day, he phoned me. He's like, I've got some news. I said, what's your news? He just said, I just bought the new Mercedes in cash. And I was like, but I swear yesterday you had no money, but today you're buying like a car for 40 grand or whatever it was, in cash also. And he said, that was the end of our friendship. After I said to him, look, I really can't deal with you anymore, because for years you have rinsed me, you have deliberately basically like put on this persona to sort of take money from me. And that was amazing. If we're talking about self-wealth, that was a shining example of doing it well, because he did it really well. But I have to say, when I found out the truth, I felt the friendship was over for me. Like, I never wanted to talk to the man again. And so I don't know if you guys have similar examples of that. Like, self-worth can also be quite damaging to relationships, because people often feel the need to represent themselves in, sort of stupidly, like, as though they're like going through a real time of hardship, when the opposite is true. And it can sometimes just go way too far, and they end up sort of behaving really badly.
For me, I wouldn't necessarily consider that self-worth. I think he's a conman. Like, that's
agreed.
Actually, do you know what I mean?
That's not self-worth. Agreed.
Fully lying about your circumstances or trying to make someone else feel sorry for you to pay your way. I can't stand stuff like that. I don't like that at all, because one thing for me that my mum's always taught me, I don't care how much money you have in the bank. That is your money. You are not obligated to do anything with that money that you do not want to do. If we went out and I don't have my own, I would never look at someone enviously and be like, well, they can afford for themselves. If I'm in a position where I'm in hardship and I can't do that for myself, I am no one else's obligation or responsibility to do that for me. And then on top of that, to kind of make somebody feel obligated and lie, no, I'm not here for that at all. I think that's actually really, really bad. And the fact that he was your boyfriend as well, where's his loyalty? That's horrible.
Yeah, I think that's the opposite of... Oh, no, go ahead, Nishi.
Oh, no. I was just going to ask that question, which is basically like, how do you guys see the difference between those two things?
Well, I see stealth wealth, people who are earning a lot of money, and as Mona said, don't want to be the person who's always looked at to foot the bill, or assumptions are going to be made, or be like, well, we can all go on holiday, but if someone put in extra, we could get a really nice hotel. Like that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, do you know what? I'm not going to make it obvious that I have a lot of money, and I'm just not. When I go out, I'll pay the same amount as everybody else, but I'm not going to make it big and showy and roll around in a Bentley. I think that sort of thing. So what your ex was doing, now that's just straight deception, because when you're saying I'm a hard times, you're not. What you're trying to do is save your own coin to buy your fancy stuff. When you're trying to like milk it off me, nah, I'm not here for that. I guess the issue that I have with stealth wealth is, and you guys have to really help me think through this one, to be honest. I don't mind if people want to keep what they earn a secret. It's when I know that people have money and they're just cheap. Like, I can't take cheap people. Like, I can't take it. Like, when you try to pretend like you don't have the money for something and everybody knows that you do, for me, I just can't take it. But I guess with what Mona said, the point is it's their money. They get to decide what they spend it on. If they don't want to contribute as much as everybody else or more, even though they're earning more, that really is down to them. But I guess for me, on the flip side of like my dad being like, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing with money, it was always with a sense of, but if I have more, I know for myself, if I know someone, they're in my inner circle, if I have, we all have. And it's not that they're looking for me towards it, but if I see that someone needs help, I'm more than happy to give them money. My dad was always just like, you give, you never lend. Like,
Agreed.
Don't lend someone what you can't afford to give away. So he was just like, if someone asks, he'd be like, yeah, you need money, don't worry about paying me back. I wouldn't give it to you if I couldn't afford to give it away. But when people want to pretend like, oh, I'm on hard times, when they have money in the bank, that really grates me.
I have to agree. I have to completely agree. And this might be a bit far-fetched, but there was a circumstance where somebody who Kylie Jenner knew through a friend, so she didn't know the person directly, a makeup artist, got in an accident, was raising a self-fund. The fund was like 50K or whatever, and she put towards about 6,000 to 8,000. I can't remember the rough figure. People were coming
towards 5,000.
5,000, right? People were coming at her saying that she's a billionaire or close to a billionaire, and even tallied it out into like the average working man's pay. Like, that's like someone who makes 20,000 putting it towards £50, something like that. And I just thought in my head, you know what, right? If we look at the whole facts, how she makes her money is on her hard work, right? Whether we agree or disagree on how she made it, okay? This person, she doesn't even know them. She didn't actually have to give any money towards that person. If you looked at the budget that they were trying to raise, that figure changed about 3 times. And that's under the amount of times I scrutinized it. So it could have been more, I'm not sure. The figure was 10 to 50 to 80, and I'm sure it's gone over 100,000 now. If it was 10 and she contributed 5, she's done half of it. It's people look at it now and say, oh, well, it's 100 now or it's 60, but it wasn't that in the beginning. And why are you so quick to spend someone else's money? I don't think it's fair. So I do understand why some people do like to keep their money to themselves, because examples like that is, if you focused on your coins, maybe you'd be as far as someone else is and you'd be able to contribute what you're pushing someone else to do. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, Mona, look, so interesting what you're saying. So with the Kylie Jenner thing, I'm kind of in 2 camps about it. So when I first saw that she gave 5,000, it was 60. For me, I'm just like, 5,000, 60,000, they're probably both nothing to her. Let's be honest. Yeah, 60 grand. But when she was just like, it was 10 grand, it was at 6 and she gave 5. She actually pushed it over the amount. Then they changed the tally. So I'm like, okay, this isn't a black and white example. But in the second part of something that you said, it was something that I wanted to bring up, and I'm so glad you said it, was this idea of how people get their money. Now, I had a conversation with someone. Recently, and there was a money issue that came up. And they were like, well, I work really hard for my money and people don't know the long hours that I work for the money that I have. And I was vexed, and I didn't say anything at the time, but in my head was like, you work in an industry where automatically, if you're qualified in that industry, you're already going to be making money. Yes, you went to the school and stuff, but a nurse works just as hard and just as long hours, but the industry that they're in doesn't reflect the work that they do.
True.
And I have an issue when some people are like, well, I worked hard for it. And I'm like, lots of people work hard, but not everything is going to bring in them the same amount of money in every industry. And I had a real issue with that, because I was just like, that's just really a slap in the face, because there are people who are working minimum wage, working 2 jobs, 3 jobs to get by, who are working damn hard, but they might not have certain qualifications, or, you know, because they don't speak English that well, or because they might be a certain, like, various things might be stopping them or prohibiting them from getting that sort of, you know, higher echelon money. So I think the issue that we have is that we equate in society money to worth. So if you have a lot of money, you're worth more. If you don't have a lot of money, well, you didn't work hard enough. And, you know, it's a reflection of like your morals or your work ethic, when a lot of times it's not. Like, the point is, people became very rich out of the pandemic, and it was people who were already very rich, whereas the poorer got poorer. There is a disparity in the world that we can't ignore. So yeah, just all sorts of thoughts going on in my head there, ladies.
I agree. I hear that. Nishi, what do you think?
I also agree. And I was going to say, I guess like another assumption that exists along with like your financial value is also your personal value, is the assumption, which we know to be untrue, that if you, how to phrase it, I guess it's like that, I guess the world is a level playing field. So it's like, if you're rich, you all started at the same point, and then doing well, making more money means that you, that other people, I guess it's the flip side of what you're saying, aka that other people are not as valuable. I guess I'm kind of repeating what you're saying in a way, but it's almost that people feel ashamed to reveal how much they earn, because when they know it's more than you earn, it's also like, is there also almost like benevolent aspect to it? It's not just to protect themselves. It's because they don't want to make you feel awkward. They don't want you to feel that you are worth less than them. Is there also that spin on it too?
There's this episode in Friends where the friends are split in the middle, and I think it's like Joey, Rachel, and Phoebe aren't making a lot of money, but Monica, Chandler, and Ross are. And they're always pitching these ideas of going to these fancy restaurants and just spending loads of money. And they basically had to come out and say, guys, we're broke in comparison to you. We don't make as much money as you do. And they were like, oh, well, you know, why didn't you say? And they were like, how can we say? And then when they tried to like level the playing field, they felt like charity. So I think it's hard for both sides of the coin, because I think people might think that, oh, well, when you have money, automatically you're privileged, or, you know, you're insulated, so you don't really get to feel awkward. But in actual fact, it is quite awkward, because as Sophie said, some people might not necessarily work that hard and get them and receive money that they get. But at the same time, I don't think that they should be apologetic for it. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying, Sophie, but I just, speaking from that side, I don't think it's something that they should be apologetic for. Because, I mean, if they have money, they have money. Everybody wants to have nice things. So it's just awkward for both parties. But like, I'm going back to my original point, I think it's very important for these conversations to be had, so people know their worth. And when they go into work and they're bargaining, they know what they can and can't do. Because I didn't even know that was an option. So if you said moving on to a different sector, you were wondering what is it that you could bargain for. I didn't even know that was an option. When I started applying for jobs and stuff, I thought you take what you're given. I didn't know there was a discussion of going back and forth and saying what you did go on. I've been taking pay cuts left, right, and centre, thinking I need to do an OnlyFans on the side, when all along I could have been bargaining my paycheck. I didn't even know that.
Do you know what, Mona? Like, it wasn't even something, it was only something that I've done in the last job that I had, because the other job I was in for 6 years. So when I first started that, it was a massive increase to what I was earning before. So I was just literally ecstatic. I was so happy. But when I was moving again, I was like, maybe I should take less, because I'm moving into a different career. And it was a friend of mine who works in the charity sector, but she hires people regularly. And she was like, nope. She was like, when you go in there, you ask for more. She went, they have more, but they want to get you for as cheap as possible. So you ask them for more, and then you let them know this is the reason why I'm worth it. And I spoke to various people who gave me a script of what to say and how to, told them like, actually, the job that I was doing this and I was doing this. And when I started there, I didn't have my master's yet, and I didn't have this qualification. I didn't have that. And basically you're paying for the expertise that I have in order to do this role. So it's something that I'm going to take forward, but I had to really buoy myself up. in order to do it, because I don't like to talk about money. And this is where the issue comes in, where we don't talk about money. Because I don't talk about money, talking to money with my employer was extremely difficult. I was praying, I was talking to friends, all of this stuff, because I'm just like, I'm gonna have to talk about money. But the point
That's
is,
how I would feel.
we have to take the stigma away from it. We have to start talking to money with our children and talking to them about this and saving this and this and that, so that they're comfortable having these conversations. Because I was reading an article where this woman says, she said, I know the sex life of my friends. I know who's had an abortion. I know who's had a miscarriage, but I don't even know what they earn. Like, it's crazy that we can open up these other parts of our life that are so secretive. But when it comes to money, that's the one that's inappropriate. And it really, all it does is protect people who don't want to give everybody a fair wage, in my opinion.
I think I completely agree with you.
I remember I once had a job and I got in so much trouble because I was really close to my colleagues. And we just had this conversation one evening. I was just really intrigued to know how much people earned. And as I say, I was 24, which, pretty young, relative to now. And I wasn't with kind of malicious intent or kind of me trying to undermine the company or anything. And about 2 weeks later or a week later, because my boss had been away, and he came back and he was like, "You need to come to the hotel tomorrow." And so I went to see him. And
why are you always in a hotel meeting someone from work?
It was the same boss but different hotel. He lived in a hotel though. That's the thing. Okay. He lived in a hotel, and but he didn't live. Yeah, he lived in this hotel. So I went to see him, and he's like, "You know what you did." I don't know what I'd done. Like, I genuinely didn't think I had done anything wrong. And anyway, obviously it transpired that the issue was I had brought up how much we earned, and somebody, his personal assistant, who had been a part of this conversation, had gone back and reported that I'd done this. And I was threatened with being let go. It was that serious. He said that I'd undermined his authority by bringing up the question of salary. And until then, I didn't even know it wasn't something you didn't speak about. So coming back to that conversation, it is that thing where, as much like we all want to negotiate and stuff, but also the relationship between the employer and the employee or potential employee is always so weighted against you. You know what I mean? Which is wrong. But I guess that also feeds into the way we talk about money or understand money or feel comfortable speaking to others about it, because the way that we obtain money, aka through a job, for example, for most of us, is like the power dynamic and the conversations you have around it are so limited.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I'm thinking, to cancel out all of these grey areas, because that is where these detrimental problems arise, like gender gap, pay gaps between the genders. Because even when I was at work, we was employed by one company, but we were all paid differently, like depending on, so I worked in the makeup industry, and we all worked for a big corporation, and depending on which counter you worked on, you all got paid differently. I didn't know that, and as soon as I knew which paid the most, I went A, B, C, money, blam. Obviously, who wouldn't do that? But I did hear people talking, saying, "Oh, you can't really say this is your contract, but you can't say how much you're making, blah blah blah." And it's like, that's really not fair. And the way that you got treated is so bad. And at 24, such a young age, I completely understand how you didn't mean to do anything malicious. It was just generally you seeking out advice. And yet, if you have that rich bitch energy or that rich auntie vibes, richness is not just about your income. Share this mindset with people. If you are a money making person, share that with the people around you. And I'm not saying you have to, but if you are in a position where you have nieces, nephews, younger cousins, siblings, sisters, even friends, if you can see that in that aspect of their life, they need a little bit of guidance, or they haven't found their way. If you're in a position where you can help, and I'm not talking about financially giving them financial aid, I mean, just having conversations, just giving people a ball mark, like Sophie said about her friends giving her a script. That's exactly what I would need as well, because if it's not something that you're used to, you wouldn't know where to start. Somebody could just say, ask for more money. Yes, but how? How do I do that? Where do I start?
It's so true. And I think, I don't know, I can't say that I'm gonna go and ask people about money after this lady's, but it's made me want to do it more. No, I really see the benefits of it, and I think I'm definitely someone who has I need to not think about money being something that I'm like, oh, I don't earn as much as like my friend does. What am I doing wrong? How do I fast track my career? But these are the things that I think about. But I guess the bottom line for me is that money doesn't actually determine the person you are, even how good you are at your job sometimes. So yeah, be honest if you want to be honest. Just don't be cheap. That's all I ask.
Do you think it's wrong to lie? Sorry, I know, but would you lie about your salary if, like, your friend after watching this episode asked you?
No, I'd never lie about my salary. Like I wouldn't lie. I think for me, I'd probably have to be earning over maybe 100K to have a very firm rule of I'm not really going to tell anyone, because I don't want to make, if I can see that someone's earning less, I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. But my lifestyle, I don't see why. It depends what level of self-wealth. I'm not going to not buy the car that I want because I'm afraid that other people are going to think certain things. So I'm like, if I've worked hard and, it's taken years and years for me to get to a certain place, then I'm like, I want that car. I'm going to go and get it. So I think it really depends. But I think this idea of your people outwardly seeing how much money you have, that's not even really what really rich people do, if we're being honest. It's like nouveau riche. It's new money does that. Like for people who've had money and money and money for generations. I had this friend who worked at this elite nursery in West London, and she was just like, Sophie, the people here are seriously rich, and they all come in like t-shirts, jeans and Uggs, like you wouldn't even know. She said one family was like, oh, someone else is going to pick him up over the next couple of days because we're going away on holiday. And she was like, oh, to Spain. And she was like, oh, we're going to the Oscars. And she was like, oh, okay. She was just like, it was serious money, but you would never be able to touch when the kids would be playing with cars and like, bang, my Porsche's in your Ferrari. Bang. And I was just like, she was just like, serious money, but you would never be able to tell. So I think there's a way to have money and not have to kind of show it off, but to still enjoy things and to be able to help people. And for me, that's what money is about. It's being able to help the people that I love. Oh, no one has anything to say? It must mean it's the end of the episode. So thanks for watching and listening to Ethnically Speaking, but help us to keep the conversation going. We want to know, should women keep a secret about the amount of money that they make? Should they hide it from their family and friends? Let us know your answers down below in the comments. And if you want a summary of everything we've talked about today, head on over to unitedmelaningroup.com/ES062. The link will be in the description. And also, if you've been watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, give us a thumbs up so you don't miss a single thing. We're going to be seeing you again on Wednesday, where we'll be talking about what does it mean if two people in a couple are sharing or sleeping in two separate beds. You're not going to want to miss that. But until then, make sure you wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your distance. And as always, as the country opens up, keep safe.